This past weekend, my wife and I drove to Tallahassee, Florida to see our granddaughter's art show at Florida State University. And on the way, we chose to listen to Michael Lewis's book, Going Infinite. It's basically the story of Sam Bankman-Fried. Michael spent 6 months with Sam Bankman-Fried before the charges were brought against him in the trial that just settled in his guilty verdicts that will put him in jail for the rest of his life for fraud and deceit. And I asked the question, who's guilty of what? The other picture you see here is Gregory Becker. Gregory is the CEO, or was the CEO, of Silicon Valley Bank. What I learned in the book, and Michael Lewis's book, is that Sam was a genius. He's a mathematical genius. And he's also of the feeling that his purpose on earth was to make as much money as he could and then give that money away, first of all, to make sure that we didn't suffer another pandemic, and then to harness artificial intelligence. And he was so much of a philanthropist that he also recruited people in his circle that would do the same thing. And so I put that in perspective, and Michael Lewis does a tremendous job of following Sam through his life and giving you a picture of who this guy is. And the picture I show in the thumbnail is my best representation of who I think Sam is. He is totally non-social. He had to learn how to use facial skills to communicate with people. And then he built this business basically for one reason and one reason only. He asked himself the question, how can I make more money and affect the world better as a human being? And he said, I'm smart enough I can become a doctor. And as a doctor, I could probably save one person per day in a 5-day week. So my limits would be there. But then he said I could become a banker and I could make millions of dollars. And then I could donate that money to an organization who would fund more doctors, maybe 20 doctors, and they could save collectively many more lives than I could. And so that was his philosophy in life. And then he took his knowledge. He's a graduate of Stanford in physics. And he basically took that and became a stock trader. He worked for an organization, ran up to the top of that organization as a trader. He went in one day and said he was making $250,000 a year. He asked how much he would be making in the next 3 years. And they said, you would get up to about $500,000 a year. How long would it take me to get $1 million a year? And they told him it would probably take him 5 to 7 years. He quit the next day, and he then went and started Alameda Research. It was a company that was basically going to trade cryptocurrencies. And what Sam recognized was cryptocurrencies was a trading opportunity that had no restrictions, no guidance, no rules, and was actually illegal to be involved in the United States. So he incorporated Alameda Research in a foreign country that had no restrictions and no laws, because what he recognized, and what Michael shares with us up front, is when he started, Bitcoin was selling for 25% more in Korea than it was selling for in the United States. So Sam could take it and buy it through Alameda Research from a foreign country for, let's say, $10 a share, and then take it and buy it for the $10 a share, and then sell it in Korea for $12.50 and make a 25% profit. But then also knowing this, if he leveraged it to the hilt, he could make not 25%, he could make 1,000% profit. All he needed was the money to buy it. So he went out and borrowed the money from other people who believed the way he believed for 50% interest per year, but he only needed the money for one day to transfer the stock that the Bitcoin that he bought for $10 over to the people to sell it to for $12.50 in Korea, and he had a money machine. Well, he took his knowledge of trading, and he did this with all the cryptocurrencies because they are not regulated. No one controls them. You can front run them. There is no controls that says you can't leverage more than 50% of what your assets are. No, he could borrow as much money as he wanted, and he could put his hands on billions of dollars and make trades and create thousands of % return on his money because his money was leveraged. That's what he did. So all Sam needed was somebody now to create a program for him that would do this automated trading for him. And so he got his friend, Nishad Singh, a friend from high school who didn't talk much, but was a genius at writing the bot that created the program. And then he brought in Gary Wang, who was another young man who he had known as a young man, and they became the trading organization. They created the bots that then both ran Alameda and FTX, so that they could also have an exchange to get the high fees from you and I for trading our cryptocurrencies. He had it covered from both sides. Now, where he got into trouble is they never had a financial office. They never had a manager of client relations or anything that even resembled a corporate structure. They had no board of directors. This company was basically run by 3 guys, and what Sam could keep in his head. Think of it this way. In the Wild West days, someone shows up at your ranch and says, hey, we want to buy 1,000 of your cattle for $100 a piece. Here's a check for $100,000. Let's initiate that trade, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks to pick up the cattle. But you never come to pick them up, and you just know that they're there whenever you want them. Well, that's how Sam ran his business. He didn't keep track of where his money was, where his client's money was. Now, he did abuse the relationship with Alameda Research, but it's questionable if it was, in fact, against any laws, but because he wasn't operating in the United States where he was tried. He was operating either in Hong Kong at one point and then finally in the Bahamas. So I ask you this, who is guilty of what? You see here Gregory W. Becker. He was the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank. He was the guy who had a lot of people who lost everything they had at Silicon Valley Bank. Now, I ask you this, who hurt the most people? You must recognize that FTX is still in bankruptcy court. There is a lot of speculation that all this money that they couldn't find, that they were declared insolvent, is going to be found when some rancher raises his hand and says, hey, I've got your cattle that you've never come to pick up. Sam will probably not be able to figure it out, but the account lawyers will. So I ask you, what harm was done? My answer to that question, it was not done probably to his clients. I think they'll get their money back. Who was it harmed? In a very short period of time, this industry grew from nothing to a $3 trillion industry. Where did that money come from? Well, I'll show you where it came from. It came from the United States Treasury. This is the U.S. debt clock. This number of $33.7 trillion in 2020 was at 20 trillion. So we have added in 3 years $13 trillion. Well, this is where the money, the $3 trillion that by the end of 2022 was in the cryptocurrency industry, this is where it came from. This and the other world debt. These are the debts of all the countries in the world. You'll see the United States, this is the highest, followed by Japan or China. China recognized the threat of this and banned cryptocurrency, but we still have it in the U.S., and thus this number was $3 trillion was sucked out of our economy with no value added. Do you think maybe the federal government had a problem with that? Do you think maybe the banking system had a problem with that? Do you think maybe Wall Street has a problem with that? Sam Bankman-Fried had to be stopped because he did this. He and two other guys did this by themselves. Give them artificial intelligence, give them machine learning, and they'll bankrupt your country. That's why Sam Bankman-Fried went to jail and Gregory Barker got a severance package. The three closest people in Sam's inner circle, Gary Wang, Nasal Singh, and Carol Ellison, all testified against Sam. Why do you think they did that? That's my takeaways from Michael Lewis's book. And if you own any cryptocurrency, please do yourself a favor and read this book so you understand how that system works, how it is unregulated, how it is the Wild West, and how four young people, when you count in the young lady, put together a multi-billion-dollar business. Sam was the 60th richest person in the world when they put him in jail, or before they declared his company insolvent, which it may not be. Listen to this book or read this book. Invest 8 hours of your life into understanding what you're dealing with. And then you make the decision. Are there more people who want to make this go away than there are people who want to make it grow? I don't see how any governmental system can operate when its financial structure is controlled by a young bunch of people who can make a computer dance in your head with their own knowledge, and then you give them artificial intelligence and machine learning, and I'll be damned if you don't have a real problem on your hand. I think the system woke up and said, we've got to stop this, and we've got to send a message to the rest of the world to let them know we're not going to let it happen. Now, read the book. Invest 8 hours and you make your decision. And after you make that decision, go into the comments and tell me what you think. You read the book. You understand it. You look into Silicon Valley and you tell me who's guilty of what.